Business in the 217. This is the WMAY Morning News Feed. I'm Greg Bishop. We're joined now with Chris Butler. He is the president and owner of Butler Funeral Home here with Business in the 217. Chris, nice to meet you. Thanks for taking time with us this morning.
Nice to meet you, Greg, as well. And thank you for allowing me to be with you.
So Butler Funeral Home, how long you guys been around? And of course, it's got your namesake to it. So is this a family affair of sorts?
Yeah, it is. So the organization started in 1893. And, my family has been involved since 1925 when my great uncle Harold Butler joined the business as a manager. And we've been here since. Of course, through that time, many different family members, among them my dad, my uncle, my aunt. Today, myself and my wife works not as a funeral director, but she is involved in the organization as well. And we've got some other individuals who aren't specifically part of our family. Now, of course, they're like family, but we have other family members, so other husband and wife teams and so forth in the organization. And we also have, as a part of the organization, Boardman Smith Funeral Home, which actually started back in 1848 in the community. So that location or that organization is the oldest funeral home in the community at this time, and a little bit notable for the fact that always served the Lincoln family, including when President Lincoln final visitation and funeral were held here in the community.
It's pretty remarkable history. And I would imagine, an opportunity for you guys at some point, if you haven't already, is to put it all together into a book of sorts. And I'd read that book because the history that you have there is pretty substantial. What lends to the longevity here? Is it because it had family all throughout, or what are some of the tips and secrets you can share with us to share with other entrepreneurs out there and how they can make their business live long?
Well, I think the longevity would simply be the fact that a very community invested organization has been from the start. The founders of Ben Curlin and Ed Egan, when you look at their history and the way they were involved in the community, but I think, and I guess one of the overriding values of the organization has always been that part of our obligation is to help people, give people information so they can make good decisions. And then once they make those decisions, you honor and implement those decisions, and you invest in those decisions for families. So that's an important aspect of the operation. Certainly, I think, though, that the key of everything is relationships. And when one of the joys I always talk about of the funeral service profession is the ability or the fact that we connect with people from all walks of life. So there are families that we've known for generations, and some people that I've only known through or because of the organization, but yet you develop friendships and so I think with that that's part of it, the relationships, the connections. Certainly, I think the fact that when a family experiences the death of somebody in their family, somebody they love and care about, they're going to seek out people and a place that they find as a safe place. And that's certainly one of the aspects that we feel is very, very important about a funeral home. People do recognize it as a safe place in which they can embrace their pain. They know that they're free in that environment to express their feelings, to receive visitors and receive guests, friends from the community, coworkers from the community, those people that we also classify as survivors. It's not just the immediate family, but everybody comes together, and you're going to see tears. You're also going to see laughter. You're going to see people embrace and so forth. Obviously, that's been a little different during the past year, but still, that's that safe environment where it's okay to take time to say goodbye. And, the world's a busy place, but I always say if you stand out on the front porch of our main location here, you'll see a lot of cars passing by very quickly. But if you just turn around and look inside, you see that the world is slowing down and people are coming together. And there's really a lot of beautiful human moments that take place within the walls of a funeral home.
We're talking with Chris Butler, owner of Butler Funeral Home, here with Business in the 217. And of course, past year has been just incredible. Butler Funeral Home was around in the pandemic a century ago. Now here we are dealing with another pandemic over the past year. What kind of challenges is that brought for your business and for the industry in general for end-of-life services?
Yeah, it's interesting the way you introduced that, because when this first happened last year, one of the things we did was say, well, the main organization was founded in 1893. What other kind of challenges and crises have we experienced as an organization? And there are plenty. So when we first looked at last year, it was certainly it was confusing at first for everybody. I think it was around March 16th of last year where we kind of got the word of what was going to happen. And it evolved through the course of the year and kind of went forward and backward at different times. The one thing that I would say is that we knew from the beginning is that anything that would delay a funeral was going to delay the natural mourning and healing process. So we had to be ready to assist people in the way that we always had, but in a different way at the same time. You can't put a pause on grief. So one of the things that we quickly determined was going to be important is internally, and as we worked with families, to say, is let's not focus on what we can't do. Let's focus on what we can do. And we found a lot of ways to get these done. And people still were able to come together in a safe way to share their grief. And sharing grief is important. The old adage that joy shared is joy increased. Grief shared is not grief increased, but it's grief diminished. And so it is important for people to have that outlet. And and the community did their own way of finding ways to come together. I can recall visitations where, we couldn't have a lot of people in the building, but people sat outside and, they pulled up their cars and opened their trunks and pulled out chairs and sat together in circles at a safe distance from each other. They knew that there was going to be a lot of people there. We saw people line up they'd call and they'd say, hey, what's the procession route going to be? And then they'd line up along the way at a place where they could, show their support. We had funeral processions that would drive by a church where there'd be cars in the parking lot. And we'd, of course, slow down and people would be able to see who was there. There was just a variety of ways. So the immediate survivors, of course, would always generally be able to come together in a way that allowed them to be together again in a safe way. Depending on the time of the year, we had people in the building, guests that could come together and show their support to the family. And right now we're heading hopefully towards getting back to more of what we're used to in a historical sense. But we have more people in at this time. But again, continuing the safe practices that are very important to everybody. And naturally, there are families that have been impacted. They've lost a loved one who's died because of either directly with COVID complications or related complications, and that presents even some unique challenges for them.
it's not something people want to think about, but it's something that everybody's going to experience because it is a part of life. And I think it's important that everybody recognize that. Chris Butler, Butler Funeral Home, greatly appreciate you taking time with us here on the WMAY Business in the 217. I imagine we'll talk again soon.
Well, I'd love the opportunity, and thank you. It was good to be with you and your listeners, viewers.